Hello and welcome to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. I am Eli Schuster. I'm joined alongside Isaac Trotter. And today, in the studio for Tati Perry filling in. We miss you, Tati. Tati's going to be back next week. It'll be fine. But in the producer chair today is Jared. Jared, say hi.
Hey, Eli. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Good night. It's great to be back.
Oh, excited.
Yeah.
He's excited. Jared fills in on the show sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm. Once in every blue moon, says so on my Twitter profile, so got to be on brand.
Not bad. It's not bad to be in the...
What is your Twitter profile? You probably should plug it for us.
I'd have to pull it up.
Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
that's not great.
Yeah,
You got to see if you're going to be on these shows and you're going to be on the radio, you got to have your Twitter handle ready.
Yeah.
At Schuster_Elias, you can go follow it. At SCHUSTER underscore.
Talking about our Twitter handle.
ELIAS. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. What do you think we were talking about?
Never mind. That's just me not listening. At Jared E. Farmer. Check it out.
There
Great
you go.
profile.
Okay. I understand it's nerve-wracking, right?
Yeah.
Eli and I are extremely intimidating right now.
This is the
I
first...
suppose. I'm just out of the loop altogether.
Yeah, this is the first time he's in the producer chair. But it's all right. He's going to do okay.
Yeah. Should be exciting.
Yeah, we believe in you. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we have a good show today. I'm excited. We're going to get into talking Illinois basketball. Their next game will be this weekend against Nebraska. They're coming off a loss to Notre Dame, a pretty heartbreaking loss for them. So that's going to be a pretty big game for us to talk about and get into a little bit. As for NBA, I want to talk about the NBA today. I want to get into, we're about 20 games into the season. I want to talk about things that have surprised us so far. I want to talk about, maybe if there's a player that stands out, maybe if there's a situation that's going on, maybe if there's a team, just anything that really stands out to us through these first 20 games. I think it could be fun to get into. And then if there's any maybe trade proposals in the NBA that we want to see happen, I think that's something that would be fun to get into. And then, of course, on the show, we're going to have to talk Illinois volleyball. Illinois volleyball will play Friday, that's tomorrow night, against Eastern Michigan to start their tournament, their tournament journey. And so hopefully it doesn't end too soon.
Yeah,
and
it should be fun.
Tomorrow they'll take on Eastern Michigan. If they beat that, they'll play the winner of Louisville or Dayton on Saturday night. And Illinois is hosting through all the way up until the Final Four here in Champaign at Huff Hall. So big moment for them. I was at Illinois volleyball availability yesterday, media availability, talking with Coach Thomas, talking with Allie Bastianelli and some of these people. And one moment that I loved sitting there talking to Allie was she sat there and said, one person asked her that was there, said, "Hey, how's this feel just to have this at home? What do you think the energy is going to be like?" And she stopped and she couldn't answer. Then she's like, "Sorry, I got goosebumps." She laughed and you could see it on her skin. She's like, "It's going to be amazing." And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you can go Friday, I know there's some general admission tickets left. Most of it's sold out, but there's some general admission tickets left for Friday. And then Saturday, if they move on, try to get to that game because that'll be even more fun. So just my volleyball plug. But we can get into some more logistics later. Let's start, though, with some Illinois basketball. I want to get into Illinois basketball a little bit. I want to talk about what we've seen from this team so far. 2 wins on the year. For me, not surprising. I think it's not surprising to a lot of people, but I didn't think they'd get out of Maui with a win, and Notre Dame's tough. I mean, that's going to be another big game for you, and you played it well at the end. You were able to hang in there, but not enough shots fell. And so looking at this team, Isaac, what do you see so far from them? What has impressed you about their play so far? But also, what is kind of holding them back? What's keeping them from maybe taking one of these big games?
Illinois is 2-5 on the season. It's the worst start in Illinois history since 1967.
But also, this might be one of the hardest non-conference schedules ever.
This is the hardest
That's
schedule.
what I want to
Exactly.
say. Yeah,
That's
why that stat doesn't mean much.
Gonzaga is the number 1 team in the country. A team like Iowa State is an extremely good basketball team. Xavier is solid. Georgetown is a Big East team. And Notre Dame last night in the ACC is going to be a solid team. So when I look at this team and I see a 2-5 record, it's not great, but it's kind of where you're supposed to be at with such a young roster and with one senior. I was very impressed with Aaron Jordan's performance against Notre Dame. He carried you in the second half. I've been extremely impressed with Georgi Bashanishvili this year. He was awesome against Notre Dame on Tuesday. Georgi finished with 22 points, which was second on the team. He also had 6 rebounds, 1 assist. He knocked down a 3, finished with 8 of 15 from the field, and he looked like the most indispensable piece on the floor. That stuff matters, and I'm very impressed with some of these freshmen coming up. I think that there's a very bright future. This year's just going to be hard, and you got games coming up here against Ohio State and Nebraska that you're not going to be favored in. And you have a game against UNLV next week at home That's not going to be an easy game. That's a UNLV team that beat you last year pretty handedly. And, that game was close at times during the middle of the second half, but UNLV pretty much took over. So there's a situation where you could be 2-8, and that's okay. Because when you look at last year, where you were at this point last year in Brad Underwood's first year, you were 6-1, except you were coming fresh off a loss to Wake Forest where you really weren't in that game for most of the game. And I feel like Illinois is in a much better place this year at 2-5 than they were last year at 6-1. Because I just do. Like a close loss to Gonzaga, a buzzer-beating loss to Notre Dame is so much better than a 3-point win over Eastern Tennessee State.
Sure, I think it's important to make sure you're looking at the opponents that they're playing. It's really what it comes down to is the fact that this is the hardest kind of non-conference schedule this team is going to have and has had ever. And so it's going to be a situation where this team can easily fall to 2-8, like you say. And I think their best chance at a win coming up, you could say, is UNLV. That's their best shot coming up at home. But Nebraska is also a team you beat twice last year. They still got good players. They were the players on the team last year, the ones that are good and key for them. Obviously, they've improved, but you beat Nebraska twice last year.
You match up well with them.
Yeah, you do. You did last year, and you do this year as well. But Nebraska, I think, needs to be a game where if you kind of want to salvage a lot of this season, I think you should take that one. Because if you are 2-8 at the end of the day, there's not a lot you're going to do. There's not a lot you're going to do with this season. And so, is being 3-7 all that different? A little, but because at least you have already a Big Ten win.
I mean, it gives you a chance to be over 500 before you get into the crux of Big Ten play. And we're not going to sit here and expect this team to be 10-10 in Big Ten play at the end of the year. I think this team will be lucky if they win 7 Big Ten games. So you're going to probably be under 500. Illinois is probably not going to be playing postseason basketball. But this year, you can see that this team is just 1 year away. You have all the pieces here to succeed. You just need a couple more.
Well, it doesn't help them, too, that the non-conference schedule is as complicated as it is.
It feels like this non-conference schedule would have been perfect next year or maybe 2 years from now.
Yeah, I think it doesn't help that your non-conference schedule is this difficult and the Big Ten is as good as they are this year. So that's what's going to make it really tough. And I think at the beginning of the year, I was thinking this team was around a 15-win team. That's where I had them at.
15.5 was the over-under, right?
Yeah, I had them at a 15-win. And I think looking at it now, I think this Nebraska game is actually going to do a lot for me to see if I'm going to stick with that kind of 15 or fall down a little bit, because I think that it could be less than that because of the fact that this Big Ten schedule for them and the Big Ten conference right now is back in terms of being a very strong conference for basketball.
I don't see 13 more wins on the schedule. It's just they're just not out there. You don't play enough cupcakes in non-conference play. I expect Illinois to beat Missouri. I think you have a mental edge over there. I think you have a better roster than Missouri, and you can really handle them. But outside of that, every single game is going to be tough. And if you look at the KenPom rankings right now, and Illinois is favored in one Big Ten game out of 20, and that's Rutgers at home. They think they believe that Rutgers on the road could beat you. And that's a Rutgers team that went to Miami and beat them. So this Big Ten is as good as it's been in a long, long time. We see Michigan last night dismantle a very good North Carolina team. You see what Wisconsin's done this year. You see what Iowa has done this year. This Big Ten is loaded, and this is kind of the worst year for the Big Ten to be loaded with such a young Illinois roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is. I think that it's
if you're looking for wins and losses.
Well, sure, but I think that this learning experience that they have early on. Obviously, we talked about how valuable that is, and we talked about that last year, knowing what the schedule is going to be for this young team and for guys like Io coming in. But what's could be even more valuable is the fact that this whole season is going to be like that. And so I think that these young guys won't. If this was last year's team with this schedule, I mean, it would be a mess. It would be, and these guys would get so unmotivated and consistently. But I think the difference about this team is you see them lose the way they did against Notre Dame, almost the same way they lost in a game last year when Michael Finke had his 3 and Brad Underwood hugged him. And you see them lose to Notre Dame. It was Nebraska, yeah. You see them. Well, that was to win the game, and then they went to overtime.
Yeah, and Nebraska beat them. Yeah,
and but this is a situation where you lose in almost an identical way. And I mean, we'll see it really on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But the feel for this team is just completely different. They have that loss, and then you immediately go, okay, I mean, they already kind of had this already this year. And you don't have last year where that happens, and then you think next game they're going to come out ice cold.
Right, and that's why I have a shred of optimism for Big Ten play. Because you are 2 Trent Frazier threes away from beating Gonzaga and beating Notre Dame. You had 2 chances. You had 2 chances by your best player having a great look from 3 to be 4-3. That's where you're at. So I think Illinois is going to have chances in Big Ten play. You're going to have your chances. Will you be able to close on those? This roster hasn't done it yet. In Brad Underwood's tenure, you've had 10 games now where Illinois has had been within one possession with less than 2 minutes to go and lost.
My problem with that thought process and that kind of theory and looking at it that way is we did that in the early stages of this year's Illinois football schedule. I mean, when you looked at it, you saw, if they had this one playback, they beat South Florida. If they have this one, and we 100% did that. I bet we can go back on the track in this radio show. And we did that.
That was only one game.
No, there was. We definitely had another instance where we were talking about that. We said, this team could be.
You weren't one play away from beating Penn State.
Well, but at the end of the day, you said that we were leading. I mean, what I'm saying is we can go back on the audio tapes, and I guarantee you it's on there. And we've said that this team is this step away from being,
right.
This schedule or this moment for being in a bowl game,
right.
Or just this play away from doing this. And so at the end of the day, I don't really care that Illinois is 2 Trent Frazier threes away from doing it. I mean, I care in the sense that it was a close game, but I don't care in the sense of saying, well, really, they should be around this. Because sometimes people fall.
Thing. If we make this play and this play and this play and this play, we win the game.
Well, people fall into a trap all the time with sports of doing this, where they say, technically we're 4 and whatever.
Right.
No, you're not. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're not, because and people kind of do that, and I think fans do that a lot of times is to help themselves and make themselves feel a little bit better. But at the end of the day,
situation on Twitter where you see when Gonzaga beats Duke and everyone goes, "Oh, Illinois could compete with Duke because they were a 3-point
no, they can't because they get slashed by Iowa State the next game." So at the end of the day, it's great that game they competed with Gonzaga, right? At the end of the day, they played well, but it doesn't matter because the next game's completely different, and so. That a lot of the times the argument that people make, and that argument you see it all the time, technically they should be this, technically the one play away from being this, but they're not. And that means a lot because those are two wins is a lot. And those 2 wins are not on right now there for you. And those are 2 big time wins. And so at the end of the day, it's going to be as hard as ever. And I just think that there's no looking back. It's only looking at, okay, what's the next game going to bring? How do you fight what happened in the last game?
Yeah, and I completely 100% agree with that because we can all talk about how Trent Frazier's 3-pointer was 3/4 of the way down against Notre Dame for the game winner, but it didn't go in. And so now you have to. And
also, there's plenty of other things in that game that is the reason they lost. It's not just Trent missed that game. It's not like we
need to break that down a little bit too, because there are multiple things that Illinois did not do very well.
But it was and that's exactly what I'm saying. Is it's not like that game was neck and neck the entire time, and it's just a missed that was the one mistake they made, because that was not the one mistake they made.
Notre Dame
that second
gave
half,
you chances to win that game. They were 12 of 25 from the free throw line.
Well, and you can't have a game. We can get into the Notre Dame game right now, but you can't have a game where as good as Bishan-Shavili was for you, and he scores 22 points and he has 6 rebounds. You have Trent Frazier and Adesumwu going 3 for 11 each. Basically, they each had a combined 6 baskets on the day.
They were 6 for 21 from the field together.
And you can't have that. You can't have that happen in a game. And I think that, and we were talking about this a little beforehand. About how you can talk about maybe one of them's holding them back, and that's a whole different discussion. But I don't think that this is a scenario where you're going to see this multiple times where both of them have this performance. I think it's a sure bet that one of them's going to have a big game.
If you had told us that Illinois, Trent Frazier and I would assume were 6 of 21 from the field, would you have expected Illinois to be within 2 points? No,
and what I tweeted after that game, and what I tweeted after that game was, if you told me Georgie Bishan-Shavili had 22 points, I would have told you Illinois won. And so, it's that game. There was a lot more to it than just Illinois missed a shot at the end of the game. They had chances to win that game, and they played well in that first half. And it was just another situation, I think, of a Brad Underwood team and a young team at that, but a Brad Underwood team not being able to close out a game.
But again, the factors, the people that had some issues down the stretch were your veterans. Kipper Nichols had a terrible stretch. Nichols has
had issues every single game.
He had a terrible stretch in that first half that he had a massive technical foul that wiped away Illinois' 11-0 run. And that changed the entire process of that first half. Illinois was up 20-13, had a chance to go up 22-13. Kipper Nichols has an offensive foul has a foul that lets him to the line for 2 free throws. Oh, and then he gets a technical foul after that, which gives them 2 more free throws and the ball back, and they splash a 3, and it's tied. That's a situation. That's a scenario there that really hurt Illinois. And Kipper Nichols, again, we talked about it on Tuesday. What can you do to get him going? right now, I don't know if there's much you can do. And if Illinois goes 2-8 and you lose these next couple games, I think there's a strong case to be made that Tevian Jones and Alan Griffin need to be ascended into the major playing time, and Kipper Nichols needs to come off the bench. Maybe has 5 to 7 minutes off the bench.
I think one thing we've seen already is the greater role that Alan Griffin's getting, and a lot of that's because
not on Tuesday, though.
And a lot of that is because of the fact that Kipper's been playing the way he is,
right.
and I think. I don't blame Underwood. I know in a game against Notre Dame, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go to Kipper. I'm going to go to him, and I'm going to make sure he gets a good chunk of playing time because he's supposed to be this veteran on the team. But we've talked about this at length on this show already, and we did earlier this week. Kipper Nichols should not be really starting a game for you right now. Kipper Nichols should be on the bench, and he should be having to go into a game and go on a run of his own and prove himself to really get any playing time back right now. Because at the time when he's in the game, the team is not better. There was an instance in the second half when he was in the game that they got a couple boards and he looked okay, and you thought maybe this is the moment, but then when they got on the offensive side of the ball, there wasn't a lot being done.
And that was the stretch where Illinois went nearly 5 minutes without scoring. And that's really where you lost the game. That 5-minute stretch there where you lost the game and Notre Dame goes on a 13-0 run is where you lost the game. And Kipper Nichols was on the floor for that because Georgie was in foul trouble. And you had to have your junior, the guy who's been here and done this a little bit. You had to have him do something, and he wasn't aggressive. He didn't look at the rim. And Georgie Bashanchevili had a very interesting line and very interesting stat. He was plus 12 when he was on the floor. He played 33 minutes. In the 7 minutes that he was off the floor, Illinois was negative 14. Negative 14. That's the game. That's the game.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you have the troubles at the big man position that they've had, but also
Adonis De La Rosa was terrible.
Well, also, yeah, I mean, Adonis is bad because the thing is, it's no longer an issue of not having the bodies, which I think you're not saying you have the big bodies, sure, but at the end of the day, and we talked about this on Tuesday, you have 3 guys that you should be playing all 3 of them. You have Bashanchevili, you have Adonis, and you have Samba Kane. And honestly, at the end of the day, you should be playing Samba Kane, and he should be getting minutes in that game because
I was going to ask you, what did you take away from Samba getting into guard an inbounds pass, and that's it after his red shirt just got burned?
I think it's. I am shocked that he did not play more in that game, and I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't play more in any of the upcoming games because at the end of the day, Georgie, I just feel like a broken record because we've talked about this on Tuesday, but Georgie gets in foul trouble. Adonis is not conditioned well, and he looks like he just may not be conditioned well throughout the season because of the fact that that injury is hard to come back for a big man, of that ACL injury, but then you need another guy to be able to come in and eat up some minutes. And also, when Samba was in, and I know it was not against a great team, right? It wasn't against a great team.
Number 346 in KenPom.
Yeah, it wasn't against a great team when he played, what was it, last week on Thursday?
On last Sunday.
On Sunday, yeah. But he still looked fine, and he looked good, and he looked competent. And he made a solid amount of baskets. He had a nice little fadeaway in the paint.
He dunks the ball. That's cool. I like dunks.
And he dunks. And also, guess what? He's tall. He's just a tall guy. And at the end of the day,
has long arms.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, bodies matter. He also, his first play of his career gets blocked, basically. So at the end of the day, this guy needs to play. And I don't care if maybe you think he's unprepared, you don't think he's ready, you can't get by. You don't have enough guys. You should not be playing Kipper at a 5. You just don't have enough guys to be putting yourself in that situation. And so you need to play all 3 of them.
Tevian Jones was out for the game on Tuesday. He was suspended indefinitely for a violation of team rules.
Even more of a reason for Samba Kane to play.
Right. And that's my point. And Alan Griffin had had so many 3 turnovers in 2 minutes of playing time. Like, that's just, you can't play a guy when you're doing that. And Kipper Nichols still got 14 minutes. And that's why I looked at, a guy like Samba and go, there's the minutes right there. You got to cut Kipper Nichols' minutes down so that Samba can get a few more of those. Because if he's not giving you 5 to 7 minutes a game, I'm going to be very, very frustrated with the future because you don't burn a kid's red shirt. Because in 4 years, when Samba's a senior in 2022, we could look at that red shirt senior year and be like, man, really would have been nice to play Samba Kane that 5th year. Oh, I forgot. The 11 points that he scored as a true freshman and playing, 6 games off the bench.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be worth it for him.
Well, and that's why the minute you burn it, he better be on the court.
Yes.
And he better be on the court. I don't care if it's for 3 minutes in the game, but he should be out there. He should be getting, I think, 6 minutes in the game.
At least.
That's what I think 6 to 8 is his span. And I think that, and
he can be useful. It's not like he's a trash player. He's a very competent player.
Yeah, and I don't care. And I know in practice he may be some drills he may not want to run right, but when he's on the court, he understands the game, and again, he's just a body that's going to be in there. He's not going to hurt you more than I think he'll help you at the end of the day.
And he's probably your best rim protector on the roster.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I think that he should be playing, but we'll talk more about Illinois basketball. We're going to take a little break here, so make sure you stick with us here on 107.1 WPGU. This is Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. I'm Eli Schuster. I'm joined alongside Isaac Trotter and Jared Farmer. Jared?
Yo.
Always great. Dude, I love getting the producer in right away. Jared, how you feeling today?
I am tired. I have to study all day, so.
Oh my gosh.
Studying for what?
Illinois basketball?
No. I had to work on a journalism project for our audio class. Isaac, you are in that
Yes,
class
I am.
too. Yeah. How's your project going along?
Yeah, let's just talk about this.
My project? Well, actually, I'm doing it on concussions and the future of football. And I got some really good interviews from Rayvon Bonner, Illinois football sophomore running back. He actually told me that when he was a freshman in high school, he suffered a concussion and blacked out on the sideline. So good stuff from Rayvon. Also talked to MJ Rivers, which is
good
also
stuff. Blacking out. Good stuff. Blacking out on a concussion.
It's a very interesting discussion about the future of football and kind of bouncing back and forth. So I'm excited about what the podcast could turn out to be and look like.
Yeah, personally, my podcast is nothing sports related, so can't really talk too much about it on here.
That's fine. But you know what we can talk about?
Yeah.
More Illinois basketball.
Awesome. Look at that.
And I think that with Illinois, what we were talking about before the break was just kind of looking at these big men and looking at also Kipper and not playing Samba and playing Kipper at the 5 sometimes. And I said during the break, and as I was thinking about it, the entire time that Underwood has been here, unlike when Lovie Smith, the head football coach, has been here, there was plenty of times early on that I questioned things that he was doing, or I was curious about things he was doing. But with Underwood, this is a situation where I have not done that yet, or in his first year I did not do that until this moment now where I'm asking why Samba Kane isn't playing. And I think that seems to be a popular reaction, I think, from a lot of people. A lot of people are wondering why he's not out there on the court. And I know I can understand the reasoning. I can understand what he sees in practice. But at the end of the day, the bodies just aren't there for you to not be affording to play this guy who's the tallest guy on your roster and a guy who's as long as this and who is athletic.
And Underwood talked about that after the game, and he said, we're just trying to work out the kinks with Samba defensively. He doesn't know where he needs to be. He doesn't know what to do. And I get that he's a very talented offensive player, and I think that Underwood will continue to use him, and you just hope that Samba can really kind of get back into tune defensively and, kind of mentally master what Underwood wants him to do, because I think he can really do a good thing, and he doesn't have to be perfect defensively.
No.
Because when you're 7 foot and you have a 7'6" wingspan or whatever he has, he can kind of cover up his flaws a little bit by getting to the rim and blocking some shots.
And that's the point I've been trying to make from the beginning, is it doesn't matter really what this guy can do when he's just a body to put in there. And he is athletic, and he does know the game. And I think also, what's been praised about Georgi Bashanishvili has been his offensive play, has been Underwood talking about how great offensively he is. He's a guy who also needs to work out kinks defensively 100%. And while he's more developed than Samba defensively, sure, it's still a situation where you have two big men that you think are good offensively, but defensively, you still have to take the risk and go for it.
Well, and the thing with Samba, too, is you have to figure out if he can rebound. And that's a big question for me, because Georgi Bashanishvili, we knew that rebounding was going to be a big issue for him. And so far this year, he's been a worse rebounder than Michael Finke, world-renowned as one of the worst rebounders in the Big Ten, and a worse rebounder than Maverick Morgan, another guy who Illinois fans have always piled on for his lack of ability to rebound. That's kind of where Georgie's at. Is he going to be a great rebounder in his career? No. Will he get better? Maybe. But if Samba wants to get on the floor, he has got to be able to rebound, because Adonis ain't rebounding.
Well, even more of a question than when you have Georgie performing that way, right? And I feel like we've all seen it, and we've all wanted him to be doing better there. When you have Adonis performing the way he is, and again, it's not like he's been terrible, but he just doesn't look fit out there, and he doesn't look healthy, and that's nothing against him. It's the injury troubles that he's had. But when you have those two issues happening, and defensive, if anything, the best defense is getting a rebound. I mean, at the end of the day, if you could just get a rebound defensively, get a defensive rebound, that's all you need. And so I think that if Samba can do that,
that's where I think he can.
Well, sure,
earn
and we
his
could say,
playing time.
Can he? But you have to put him in the game and find out. And so that's why it's this. He should be playing sooner. He should be playing at Nebraska. You got to put him in to find out.
And Underwood's not stupid. And I think he will figure this out where Samba gets a little bit more playing time as this develops, because Kipper Nichols ain't winning any trust with the staff. Adonis De La Rosa isn't winning any trust with the staff. And Tevian Jones looks like he's going to be out a little bit more with this indefinite suspension. So there's going to be playing time there on the table. And, we talk about rebounding, and I don't want to be negative all the time, but we got to give some props to Aaron Jordan. He's been awesome on the glass so far this year. And Ayo Dosunmu has been great on the glass too. Back-to-back games of 9+ rebounds. Those two guys have really made up for the flaws that you have rebounding from your big men.
I think that's part of the problem is when we have to go, Aaron Jordan's been your best rebounder. Or been, that's the problem. A lot of credit to him. He's kept them in games. He's done a great job this season. He's been great. But, I that shouldn't have to be his role. He's a great overall player, really, but that shouldn't have to be his role.
For any other Big Ten team, could we agree that Aaron Jordan's probably their second guy off the bench? Maybe their seventh.
Well, I think
player.
so. I talked about after that Notre Dame game. I just think that for some reason to me, Aaron Jordan fits a really good bench player on Michigan. Like that's what I see him as. I see him as a Poole last year, Jordan Poole last year. Like that's what I see him as. Just somebody on Michigan that could just go
Junkyard
in
dog.
and he just plays well. And you're like, who's this guy? And you're like, he's playing really well.
Ohio State has
and
like
he can hit a
6
game.
of these guys.
Yeah, and he could easily hit a game winner like Poole did last year at the tournament. You could just see Jordan doing that. And so but that should have to be his role because he's good at that. And sure, he's doing well right now getting rebounds, but that shouldn't have to be his role. He shouldn't have to be put in that situation. He should be put in a situation where he can just kind of dominate from behind the arc, which we really found out last year he had that ability. But that should be where he's allowed to do. I think that I think that also with Ayo, and I remember after the game against who was it 2 games ago, not Notre
Xavier?
Dame game, no, not Xavier, who they play at home. Well, I can't even remember who's the game that they crushed them. But
Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah. No, it wasn't even Middle Tennessee State. It's Mississippi Valley. That's who it is. Nonsense that I couldn't remember. Mississippi Valley State. That's why it's just MVSU is what I had to keep tweeting. I'm like, what? Mississippi Valley. When they had that game, I asked during the press conference. I asked Trent and Ayo. I said, rebounding for this team. You've been out rebounded every game for the past 4 games. The first game is the only rebounding battle you won. This game, you won the rebounding battle. Expected. Not a great team, Mississippi Valley State, but it was mainly dominated by Ayo, who had his 9 in that game. And, I asked him about it, and Trent and Ayo both had to say, and Trent spoke mainly on this. He's like, yeah, we have to pick up the slack. And, he wasn't throwing anyone under the bus, but he said, we know on this team that we have to guard or we have to rebound well. We know that guards have to play a key role in rebounding. And that's where this team's at, and that they know that. That and that's kind of a problem, I think, because they shouldn't have to be thinking about that. They shouldn't have to be too worried. I mean, always you want to play hard, you want to go rebound, but you shouldn't have to think about that. And you should have guys that are big men who are focused on that.
I will say Illinois did a great job on the boards against Notre Dame, and they won the rebounding battle there, which is encouraging to me. But I do agree, and the only way you can fix that is in recruiting. That's it. That's all it comes down to. And that's why Antoine January is a great get for this program. He's a guy who just put up 37 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 blocks in one of his first high school games. That's a great get. But now you have Kofi Cockburn coming on a visit at the end of December. It's between you and UConn. Well, what does Kofi Cockburn do? Oh, he's the best rebounder in the class of 2019. That's what you got to sell to him right now. Hey, man, we'd really struggle to rebound. Heard you're really good at rebounding. Why don't you come in and you can start first and rebound? That's kind of what you have to do. You can't get these Georgie Bashanchavillis anymore. You got to get somebody
I
big.
like Georgie. I would take more Georgies.
I know. I'm just saying, but you know what I mean, though. You can't get these.
But I want a
underrated
Georgie who can rebound. I want this Georgie, and he'll learn how to rebound.
You got to go get a rebounder.
Yeah, I think that it's obviously the area that the team lacks in the most. Offensively, from the big man position, they're way better this year than they have been from last year, and that's at least promising to see. And even with the little minutes that we've seen Samba play, to see him actually have that offensive ability is encouraging.
You feel really good about the upside that you have. Georgie looks like a 4-year Big Ten player that can give you 12 points a game on average. That's a player Illinois hasn't had for a while. I mean, you think back to what Maverick Morgan, what Nana Egwu looked like as true freshman. And Georgie has far surpassed both of them. And, and you have a really, really good piece there. And now you look forward, and now you have to continue to get good play out of your guards. I mean, Trent Frazier was 0 for 6 from 3 against Notre Dame. You need him to knock a couple of those down. Ayo Dosunmu was 3 of 10 from the field. You need him to be better, because if Illinois wants to compete,
one of those guys has to play well for them to win a game.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jordan's not going to drop 23 for you every night. It's not going to happen. So you have to.
Well, he can. They just won't win.
Just have to have your A players play like A players.
Yeah, I think that that closes out the talk on Illinois basketball.
Boom,
I think I want to be done with that. I think that.
So now you want to talk more basketball, but
I want to talk basketball, but better
basketball.
quality basketball at the pro level. There's people listening that said, "No, college basketball is better. College basketball is more fun basketball." No, it's not better basketball. College basketball is a mess when you compare it to
Watch
NBA
Wisconsin
basketball.
and Virginia, and please tell me how the NBA is so much worse than that.
Yeah. But we are going to talk about the NBA, and we're about 20 games into the season. And we've seen it. We've seen a lot so far this year. We've seen, I think, we've seen LeBron and the Lakers. We finally got to see that happen. We see them play. I think they haven't taken as much steps as I thought they'd take by now. There's still a lot of time, but I thought they'd be better at this point. I thought you'd see things turn around faster for them. We've had some surprises. You saw early struggles from the Celtics, possibly too many good players on that team, figuring out the right guys to play. We've seen the Warriors be a little strange. We see how much Curry means to them, and we see how big of a role he plays, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about, but. Let's talk about if you had to give me a surprise. Jared, I'll start with you. We're going to give you a chance here.
All right.
Welcome to the show, Jared.
Welcome to the big leagues. You said you had some hot takes, I know. But first off, start with the surprise that you had. What was one of the most surprising things from the season?
I would definitely say, and obvious Bulls bias aside, that Derrick Rose has definitely been got to be the biggest surprise of the season so far. I think given how he played last year in Cleveland, it was looking like it was basically in the gutter, like things were over for him. He was still battling that case, had to take time away from the team. He was thinking about retiring. Got traded to Minnesota. He started picking up his play coming off the bench with Jeff Teague starting at point guard. But you didn't think that he was going to necessarily turn it around.
No.
I would have assumed that he was going to spend the rest of his time in Minnesota as, just coming in, backup point guard. I know Tibbs' system, and it's just going to be...
Get you 12 points a game.
Exactly. So for him to have the 50-point game, that 30-point game against the Lakers, I mean, he's shooting lights out from three, which
he never used to
Derrick
have.
Rose does not, he just does not do that.
I think he finishes more creatively at the rim now than he did when he was young.
Yeah,
he's like that savvy
I wouldn't go.
veteran
I
now.
think I wouldn't. Yeah, that's the thing. He's a savvy veteran. I wouldn't say he finishes better or anything like that. But what I'd say is his IQ of the game is way higher than it was before.
Yeah.
Before he relied on his athletic ability, and the way for him just to be able to circle his way around the rim and find the ball in the basket somehow. But this year he looks like. Some plays that Vince Carter has when you go, oh my God, this guy just knows the game. Some plays that really Chris Paul has where you're like, this guy's so good because he knows the game. Derrick Rose is having that right now. That kind of midlife switch in his game and in his basketball career at least, where he's becoming more of the savvy veteran. But it looks really good on him. It looks like one of the top savvy veterans.
And he's here to stay. He ain't going anywhere. And that's the thing that I'm so happy for him. For a guy that's gone through so much adversity throughout his career, you can't help but feel great for what he's done for that organization and for what he's done for himself personally and for his family. And that it's a great story, and I'm very, very happy. And, I selfishly want another couple 50-point games just so I can sit down and watch Derrick Rose do his thing. And I think that he has it in his bag if he can do it. I
love watching him play right now, and just seeing him kind of pick apart mentally the other team is really what it is for me. Because the explosiveness, it's not there. It's not necessarily at least what it used to be.
Yeah,
but
he's not jumping through hoops,
and he's not nearly as fast as he used to be. But that's what's so impressive about it is that he's been able to adjust his game to the speed that he's at right now, and be able to adjust his game to kind of the physical level that he's at, and really look better than it really looked the best that he's looked since his early years with the Bulls. And
since MVP Derrick Rose.
Possibly. I mean, that's.
I would say so, yeah.
I mean, that was 2011, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking
2011. I mean,
7 years later.
Those 2 seasons that he had before Thibodeau was fired, I think he got injured through one and was just kind of struggling to put it together.
What I think is funny is because I think that was the year, didn't he hit the 3 against the Cavs that year? Yeah. So I think the one thing that's funny about him is I know that when he tore his, both ACLs, tore his knees, but whatever. But when he was going through that process, all he did and all you can do a lot of the times is just kind of shoot the ball. You can't do too much, so you shoot it. And I know during that time he worked on his 3-point shot, and that's something that he really focused on, was just working on his jumper and working on it, kind of hitting from around the court. And you didn't necessarily see that pay off with the Bulls, because he still had those injury troubles. But you see that pay off a ton right now.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
paying off incredibly right now because he's never looked this good of a shooter. And now when he used to shoot it from 3, you were not sure if that ball was going in. Now he shoots it from 3, and you feel confident that he's going to make that shot.
I got his percentages up here from 3. Derrick Rose is shooting 48.6% from 3.
It's 4th in the league right now, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the rest of the year. I mean, he's been in here for 7 total seasons. He only had 3 other seasons that he shot over 30% from 3, and his best season outside of this year was 34%. So he has made that improve from 34 to 48%. That's huge for him.
That work he's put in has finally paid off, and it's really fun to see because it makes him an even better player. It makes him an even more exciting player when he has that shot down.
And let's not forget, he's passing the ball well, too. It's not like he's just a scorer still. He's averaging over 4 assists a game and also over 3 rebounds a game, which is one of his better marks over the season. This is a full, well-rounded basketball player now. This isn't just a scorer. This isn't just a hooper, an old hooper like Jamal Crawford who's going to come in and get his. Derrick Rose is doing everything for the Timberwolves.
The only way that this story becomes better is if they get into the playoffs and they make it through the first round.
But if they beat LeBron in the first round playoffs.
Yeah, it's got to be Rose versus LeBron. But no, because I think they're in the 8s. They're in the 8 right now. Again, it's 20 games and it doesn't matter. But they're in the 8, and they're in front of, and this is in the West. They're in front of like Houston. They're in front of the Lakers. They're in front of all these teams. And who knows? I mean, maybe, obviously Butler's been toxic every team he's been on, but maybe, that was the right move, and they didn't add bad guys at all. I mean, adding Covington's great.
Saric
is fantastic. Player. So their team's still not bad. And then now finally Karl Anthony Towns should become kind of the player he was supposed to be, but we'll see.
Yeah, and just the other thing, the problem with Minnesota still Wiggins.
Yeah.
I'm just so mad that he has the type of salary that he does and that he's making the type of money that he does.
Well, maybe when we talk a little,
don't they?
Maybe when we talk a little bit about trade talks, we can see if that's going to be if anyone will take Wiggins. Probably
the Magic,
not.
Maybe the Kings.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Isaac, you got a surprise? You got one thing that surprised you the most so far?
Yeah. I did not expect the Clippers to be the number 1 team in the West through the quarter of this season. What in the world is going on out there? They've had a great year. Tobias Harris, one of the most underrated players in the league. He's averaging over 20 points a game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander might be the best draft pick out of that NBA draft last year. He's averaging 10.6 points a game for them, doing everything. Lou Williams, of course, he can score at a high clip, 18 points. And then former Denver Nugget Danilo Gallinari is averaging just under 20 points a game. So they have done a really, really good job with that organization. They're really, I don't think that this year they expect to make the playoffs, and I still don't think that'll happen. But they're setting themselves up with a very bright future because they can go to Kawhi in free agency next year, Kawhi Leonard, and be like, hey, you want to go to LA? We got all the pieces right here. You're the next guy. And there's some interesting things that they could do there. And this is a team that's to be you don't mess around with them. Patrick Beverley coming off the bench, you don't mess around with him. It's a tough team. And they have really interesting pieces. I'm interested to see if they can continue this forward throughout the rest of the season.
I told Jared before the show started, that was mine. I mean, I've been really impressed with the Clippers. They've been a lot of fun to watch and good for Doc Rivers to be having.
Maybe he's a decent coach
team.
after all.
He is a decent coach. He's always been, and I think he's a decent coach. And what I told Jared was that they got a team full of, and this is something that listening to the Bill Simmons podcast earlier today, they brought up, which I thought was a great point. Was the reason the Clippers are this good right now is they have everyone on their team and every one of their players has something to play for.
Right.
And they care about winning these games because you have contract years for Tobias Harris. You have guys like Patrick Beverley, who, for a little while was a kind of one of the main guys on a team, and then he was kind of shoved to the Clippers. And when he was on the Rockets, it was a pretty big deal for him. And, then you have guys like Gilgeous-Alexander, who's just a rookie, and all rookies are going to play hard. And he's going to play, and he's in there, and he's trying to prove himself.
Gallinari is playing really hard.
Yeah, you have a team full of guys that are trying to prove themselves. And I think that point is probably one of the best points you can make about this team because that's 100% true. And the reason that they're playing this way, and I don't think they're going to go away, is because this is a team all year is going to play incredibly hard.
And plus, they got rid of Austin Rivers, which has to help every team get much better when Austin Rivers is not wearing your uniform.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I feel like it's just a overall reversal of their mentality from last year because Blake Griffin at times last year before they traded him, he seemed like he just didn't even
a completely different style of play than Lob City. Lob City was completely different than this team.
Yeah, and this team is a lot more of a grittier team, a more team-oriented.
It could be more of a Doc. Yeah. It could be more of a Doc Rivers team, really, is what it is. So I think that this Clippers team is going to be really, really fun to watch for the remainder of the year. Again, if they squeak into the playoffs, I'd be pretty shocked. But because you just imagine that some of these teams have to get it together. For one of my surprises that I'll bring up, I think I'll go the negative route. I think a surprise that's been, because there's teams like the Rockets who have been bad. That's kind of surprising. There's the Celtics. There's the Celtics who have been bad. But I think I'm going to go with the Jazz. I've been really disappointed by a lot of what I've seen with the Jazz, and it comes from Donovan Mitchell being out. I mean, he's been out. He's battled some injuries, but. It's strange. I mean, Joe Ingles doesn't look like the stud that everyone thought he was. You have Rudy Gobert, who's just supposed to be a defensive player of the year, a guy who's going off. But this team's getting killed by some other teams. They're losing by a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of a similar situation to what's going on in like Houston and Boston, in my opinion, where I guess it's like a sobering.
Yeah.
You had these incredible postseasons, you had these incredible seasons, and you came in to the year, with big time lofty expectations. This is the first time that I think for like each three of those teams where they were on people's radars. Like people were like, watch
a target on your back. That's what you had.
It's the surprise team to watch in the West now. And now they go out and they go get Kyle Korver to try kind of address their shooting. They give up 2 draft picks and Alec Burks, who I really liked Alec Burks, but
I thought that was a bad trade for the Jazz.
I thought it was too, but
I did not like the move.
Get it. I get you need shooting, and Korver's one of the best shooters out there, kind of help you space the floor a little bit. And when Korver and Ingles are on the floor at the same time, that could get it rolling, and I have no doubt in my mind they'll figure it out.
Oh, they're going to put it together. They'll be in the playoffs.
Fine.
It'll be fine.
But it is surprising early that they're 10-12.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is a team who should be competing for the top spot in the West. I think already early on in the season, it should have been something that they've been able to do, and they haven't been there. But Jared, you bring up a great point. It's that kind of hangover for them, right? That's really what it is. And early season, you see it a lot. The only thing you can hope is it doesn't last all season. But that's what a lot of times the Rockets are having it right now. The Jazz are having it right now. It's that postseason hangover that hits you, and you have to adjust your game because people are going to play you harder, and then you also have to learn how to get that same energy level back, which can be really tough at the beginning of a season.
And your bodies are kind of worn out from your long season. You're going into June, late May and June, and that matters. And I think that there's something to that where teams that didn't make the playoffs last year have gotten off to a good start. Memphis is 12-8. They're off to a great start. Now, part of that is because they drafted Jaren Jackson Jr.
and getting Mike Conley back as well.
Right, and that really helps. But there are things like that where you see the teams that didn't have to do that can get a chance to get off to a good start because their legs are fresh.
All right, we're going to, after this, talk a little bit of trade action, and then we're going to probably end this with some Illinois volleyball. Make sure everybody goes to that game. All right, so you're listening to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU. Jared, on the producer side of things today. Jared, how's it going?
Yeah, third time you asked me that, Eli, but everything's going great.
Good. All right, I'd like to check in. That's how Jared doesn't know, but Tati Perry, our usually producer, every time we come back for a break, Tati gets a question of how's it going.
And Tati always says, "What up?"
Yeah, Tati always says, "What up?" But that's about it. So
you have a very high bar to live up to with Tati. You've done well. You've done well.
Yeah. It's been fine. You shouldn't question me asking you it for a third time, but it's fine. We'll let it slide. Before the break, we talked about our biggest surprises in the NBA. Talked about the Jazz. We talked about the Clippers. It was good talk. It was good talk. But we'll still stick with NBA. But I want to know, does anyone have any trade ideas out there? Does anyone have any moves they want to see teams make? Players they think should be switched up. What are our thoughts on this? Does anybody have anything in particular?
I have 2 on my mind. One, I think J.R. Smith is going to get dealt. I think that Houston makes a lot of sense for him. They need another shooter. They can add a veteran there to go along with James Harden. They could add a guy. We all criticize, J.R. Smith for being a knucklehead, which he is, but he's an above-average defender, and they need wing defenders at Houston. So that's one trade. The second trade that I had in mind, Bradley Beal and the Lakers makes a lot of sense. I think Bradley Beal and LeBron plays together very well. I don't think the Lakers will do it because they're all in on setting up this process to get a big free agent like Kawhi, a big free agent like Klay in 2019. But if some of those things, if Kawhi decides that, hey, he wants to stick with the Raptors, or, if Klay goes, yeah, I'm not interested in the Lakers, I think that Bradley Beal could be an interesting piece for them to look at. And they'll probably want Brandon Ingram. And if they want Brandon Ingram for Bradley Beal straight up, I'd probably do that if I'm the Lakers, because I'm not sold on Ingram's upside.
Definitely.
Yeah, personally, I can't see JR on the Rockets. I understand the move. I understand what they need there. I understand the shooting that his shooting is high level.
Yeah,
it's always
everyone
been.
needs a shooter.
Everyone needs a shooter. But I think he would mesh terribly with James Harden and Chris Paul. Really, I don't know how well that would go over.
Who would JR mesh with well, though? That's the thing.
Well, the thing is, JR needs to be on the
JR
needs to be on the Cavs, or JR needs to go to like the Magic. Like JR just can't be on a team with prominent players from the start. I mean, unless it's LeBron, and that's who he was with. But JR just does not mesh well with anybody. That's why I think a lot of people are going to stay away from trading for J.R. Smith.
I mean, Houston did just trade for Carmelo, or tried to go get Carmelo in free agency.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Yeah,
what
but
they're
here's
gonna
the
do
thing:
anymore.
after that experiment goes terrible, and you release him and you
They're
cut
good
him,
now.
well, do you go? Okay, let's go get J.R. Smith. Now that we fixed everything and got rid of Carmelo, let's get another.
I'll tell you what,
crazy
who would
person.
make sense there? Actually, now that I think about it, Otto Porter Jr. would be a real nice fit there.
Yeah, but for me personally, you just got to wonder how that matches up for salaries, because Otto Porter makes way too much money.
Right? There'd have to be a big time cut.
Well,
there
also, I think we're
financially.
assuming that the Wizards are just shipping everybody out.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I don't
It's-
think they're going to do. I think that they'll stick
They'll
with their
convince
guys.
themselves into that they think that they can.
Oh
win.
yeah, I don't think Bradley Beal's going anywhere. I don't think John Wall's obviously not going anywhere. These guys are going to stay there. Otto Porter will stay there. I don't see the Wizards making any moves. Jared, did you have any?
I tell you who is probably going to be traded. Markelle Fultz.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I still not really sure entirely what the whole situation is with him. And you've seen him.
Celtics
It's
crushed
got to be
that,
the
yeah.
one of the worst cases of the yips I've ever seen.
Which was the
Yeah.
worst draft pick, Markelle Fultz or Anthony Bennett?
Definitely.
No,
Anthony.
definitely.
because
Markelle Fultz is not lost
Markelle
yet.
Fultz can at least contribute something.
And I still
feel
think he's
like.
good. I still think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that given how this situation has played out, that Philadelphia is the best fit for him. If his jumper's not going to progress, and you're going to have Butler and Simmons be your backcourt, there's obviously no room for him there. And if he's not providing shooting, you can't really put him on the floor. So
What are you going to go get for him?
I really don't know what Philadelphia is going to offer for him, because, just off the fact that he's only played so much. And
You need another guard.
Yeah, and you've
so
only heard so many great things about him since he's been drafted. So I'm not entirely sure who's going to be in the market for a young guard. I know Phoenix is in need of
I think
a new
most
guard.
young teams will be.
Yeah.
Phoenix will be. The Bulls could be. To be completely honest, you can see some of these teams
Low
that are
risk,
that
high
are
reward.
Yeah,
I
100%. That's what I think. And then I think you can see a team
Orlando.
like the Heat coming into play, like
Miami,
Orlando coming into play. Those are the teams you're going to see. Teams that aren't doing anything special right now, but that go. This is a low risk, high reward situation. We get a first round draft pick, possibly for nothing.
What
for,
about
for
your
not a
boy
lot.
Terry Rozier?
Terry Rozier, I think should be traded. I think Terry Rozier deserves a shot on a team right away. I think there's no way that Terry Rozier goes to the Sixers, but but I think that Rozier deserves a shot to be the starting point guard on a team. I don't care who that is. Go to Orlando. Take DJ Augustine's spot. You know how good Orlando would be? Orlando, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, and Terry Rozier on that team.
Evan
And
Fournier.
Vukic, right? Vukic is on that team.
Yeah, and Fournier.
Yeah, that team is. That's a good team. I want to see that team.
Yeah, and they gave Golden State a game the other day.
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you what. Wouldn't hate Rozier on the Bulls. Wouldn't hate him at all.
I wouldn't hate Rozier on any team.
I
Personally, I
guess-
really like him. But
I guess my personal problem with Rozier is just like his basketball IQ, but that's something that develops
over time. Yeah.
Who would you rather have long term, Rozier or Chris Dunn?
See, that's a little bit challenging, because personally, I would probably take Chris Dunn because of
See, I
what he
wouldn't.
can
I'm
do
on the way other
defense.
side. Yeah. But I see your point. I for sure see your point.
Yeah, I mean, they're two young guys.
I do like
they're
Chris Dunn a lot.
prospects. I think there's definitely a lot of basketball that they're capable of that we haven't seen. So I don't necessarily hate going the other way and saying like, hey, I want Rozier. Dunn's not my guy. But I also, if I were to choose, I would see what I have out of Dunn first before I proceed further.
I think I agree with you. I really like Dunn. I've liked Dunn since he's been at Providence. I think that this guy's really a really good player, and he's a lot of fun. And I think he could be a really electric player too. I think that this is a guy who, once he gets past any injury troubles that he has, and he gets a chance on a team to really, I mean, we saw what he did last year when he got a chance to kind of really play consistently and play for a system that fit him better. And that's why I think, a guy like Fred Hoiberg has even stayed around this long, is because they know if they get some young guys, that are kind of fresher out of college and that play in a system that's a little more similar to a college system, it could be actually a pretty good team and work out okay. We're not going to get to a whole Fred Hoiberg situation, but I still don't think he should really be there right now. But that's why they kind of keep him around, because I think the potential Chris Dunn has is really high. Terry Rozier I like, but I think we kind of know what we're going to get out of Terry Rozier personally. I think what we saw him do last year was amazing, but that is the player you're going to get, and it was good. It was good, but I don't know how much higher he's going to go from that. But I love him in Orlando. I think him in Orlando would be a lot of fun.
Orlando, or maybe a situation where he goes down to Miami and teams up,
or Miami, sure,
with Goran
Florida,
Dragic. And any one of those two teams would work very, very well there. I don't foresee that happening though, because I don't think.
Well, no, because I don't see who the Celtics go and get from any of these guys.
Because there's. I mean, how do you upgrade?
I would
that
love
team
if you go and
further?
get like some G League guy. If this was like a farm system situation like baseball, great trade. Go and trade him and pick up a couple prospects. But unfortunately, that's not how.
Do you think they could get a
League
draft pick for him?
For
Probably.
Rozier, yeah, they would.
Late first rounder.
Yeah, and that's what you could possibly salvage from one of these teams. Or even if you go to like the Suns and you want to throw them towards the Suns, any of these type of teams, Suns, Orlando, Miami, any of these type of teams, that's who you're going to try and get from them is just draft picks. So that is kind of the farm system angle. You can go with it. That's our end of NBA. We're done.
Yeah.
We got 2 minutes left in this thing, and with the 2 minutes left, we're going to make sure we address Illinois volleyball. Illinois volleyball, they kick off against Eastern Michigan. We're going to start the show and end the show with this. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m.
I'll be commentating that game.
You're going to be commentating?
Yeah. I'll be commenting the game on Saturday, so you get back-to-back of Jared and Isaac.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that. So make sure you go to that game. If you can get into that game, go to that game. And if you can't, listen to Jared. Listen to Jared commentate that game,
because DTM Plus.
This is one of the best seasons the program's ever put together. They're on a 13-game win streak right now, and they have two of the best players in the country in Ali Bastinelli and Jordan Poulter.
And don't forget Jackie Quaid.
Jackie Quaid hitting is fantastic. But really, there's Ashlyn Fleming had an amazing season. Morgan O'Brien's had an incredible year.
Beth Prince is one of the best off the bench.
Beth Prince won, for her team, won a sportsmanship award. They talk about how much they love her. This team has got an endless amount of players who have just been fantastic, and you really do need to watch them, because I think all of us in here have Isaac has seen volleyball games. I don't know if you haven't announced them. Jared and I have announced volleyball games. It's one of the most fun events to be able to cover and talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you look at how special that ride was in 2004, 2005 when Illinois basketball was the number 1 seed, this is the equivalent of that for volleyball. This is their 2004, 2005.
I will
with
see
a run, a local run with a chance for them to make it to the Final Four and win a national championship.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see what they can do. Make sure you watch them, whether that is on your television, on your computer, on your iPhone, or in person. Make sure you do that. All right, that's the end of our show. Jared, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. We'll be back next week. You're listening to Illini Drive here on 107.1 WPGU.